Hey everyone, my name is KARMAAA and welcome to my Cognitions series where I break down particular players, teams, situations or moments within the pro scene of CSGO. Now on today's agenda is the new and reformed NiP 2016 roster. Now this roster is new, it's basically the same NiP lineup with the same 4 core, but now Pyth is replacing Alu. But really, what does this exactly mean for NiP? And will the problems really continue in this team? So let's theorize. So first of all, I'll give you a short little bit of history about Pyth in CSGO. He doesn't have that many achievements, so he's really an unknown kind of quantity in terms of, what he can actually pump out. And he's not really that much of a star player, he hasn't really done much, but NiP still picked him up, so let's talk about him. So in 2012, Pyth was in a public clear roster which had Pronax, RDL, Lidde, and Spitfire, where they came 4 for Esports M 2013. They lost to NiP 2-0. This squad then moved on to become N faculty, where they played again with Pronax, but Carrigan replaced Lidde. Spitfire was still there, and so was RDL. And really their major notable achievement was winning DreamHack Valencia 2013 by beating Kaylee and Kiyoshima's Clan Mystic, which was a French team. Now, this team allowed him to really move on to SK Gaming because Pronax ended up leaving to become Fnatic's in-game leader, and he joined SK Gaming, which then had Twist, Zelos, Delpan, and Pitta. But really this roster broke off and they really disbanded just because of internal issues, and I guess their most notable achievement was coming third at MSI Beat It 2013. They beat the Australians Vox Eminor, which now became Renegades. Now after that he joined the Aligon squad in early 2014, where he played with Delpan again, Zelos again, but then they added Cobra, HMP, and Zevez, the Norwegian. Again, nothing too notable aside from maybe coming last at Cup 2013, which is an all-Nordic Swedish competition. So then he broke off that roster and joined the Swedish Flipside Tactics roster at the end of, or really in the middle of 2014. But after that, SK Gaming dropped their roster, which was really better than Flipside, so he joined that, which became a team called Unwanted, and it featured future NiP star Michaelele, PB, Maxaki, and Huitten. Now, Michaelele left this team, and supposedly it was over complications with his attitude, and then this team got picked up by Team Orbit, where they replaced Michaelele with Palf, and then PB and Palf were both later replaced with Jumpy and Roque. And then Maxaki eventually left also this roster to go play in North America. So the team is then really dropped by Team Orbit, their sponsor, after, I think it was in August of 2015 or something like that. And because of that, 2014. And then because of that, they named themselves Greyface. Now, coming into early 2015, around Marchish, Luminosity Gaming wants to really get a very notable team, and they want to make a team that's really powerful in NA. So they end up signing Pyth and Devilwalk to go play in North America and play an ESEA invite with PTR, Anger, and Lex. And they become one of the top 3 NA teams, but the huge shortfall is that they really don't have that great LAN results, and they never really actually won a map on LAN. So as a result, Luminosity drops the team. They pick up the Brazilians, Keyed Stars, which were really a team that came 8th in the major. So they wanted a superstar kind of team that could project their brand, and so they picked up the Brazilians, which of course we know now as having Fallen, FNX, Taco, Fur, and Cold Zero. Now, Winner Fox picks up the team that had Pyth, PTR, Anger, and Lex, and then I think PTR left, and then they brought Devilwalk back in, but then they had visa issues, so then they moved all the way back to Sweden because of that, and they played the rest of their online matches in America from Sweden with 180 ping. And because of that, they had some of the worst results. I think they only won like 1 out of 17 matches or something like that. And it basically leads us to now where Pyth ended up leaving Winterfox and just filling in for some Swedish teams online, and then him eventually being signed by NiP to replace Alu. Now, looking at Pyth, it's really notable to mention that the only time he's ever been in like a tier 1 regional team was when he was in Luminosity Gaming in NA in North America. All these Swedish teams that he's kind of been in, like N Faculty or even Orbit, they were just tier 2 kind of teams, where even there he wasn't exactly the star. So he's just more so a solid player in terms of in European results, but probably in North America he would have been a star player. He was incredibly talented, and even with 180 ping or something, he was getting like 1+0 ratings. So he was an incredibly good player there. Now, it's really hard to say how well he'll do in NiP, because obviously the European style is a little bit different to the North American style, where they want to take those aim duels and they'll push you, and because of that he's a much smarter kind of player than them. He has probably better aim than them, so he's going to win those fights in North America. But in Europe, you're playing against the best of the best. So I mentioned him in my Alu video where he would be one of my potential replacements, but I didn't really sledge him as a replacement for Alu. And I more sledged him as a replacement for Freiburg, as to become like an entry fragger. But seeing as Freiburg is still buzzing around NiP like a fly around cow dung, it's time for him to really replace Alu. And, this either means that he will most likely share AWPing duties with Forest, or they might even make Pyth the main AWPer, or possibly NiP will just use it every now and again on Forest and have the rest of the team rifling most of the time. So, although maybe this isn't the best position for Pyth, he can do pretty much anything within the game reasonably well, whether that be rifling, whether that be AWPing, and I would have to say really his strength is in his pistols. I mean, the guy isn't an absolute god with pistols in terms of European talent, but he's still pretty good at it. Like, he has very good deagling. His P2K and USP skills are quite good. There's even a highlight clip of him on Mirage. I'll link it in the description. And this combination, I think, with Forest, if he can become like a really good pistol player, can kind of be like a 1-2 punch combo on pistols, and possibly that can make NiP win more pistol rounds, or even have some eco upset rounds, which is really important now within this kind of meta that has teams like Fnatic, like Envious, that force up and, actually win these types of rounds, where previously NiP probably wouldn't have won those types of rounds. So, maybe he can do that. Now, like I said, I would probably rely on him, though, to be a rifler more than an AWPer. I think his strong suit is in his rifles and his pistols. When I say that he's a strong rifler, it's not like he's a Forest kind of rifler. It's more like he's an Exist kind of rifler. Like, he can use the AK and the M4 much better than he can, an AWP. So, yeah, that's what I mean. Now, especially after what I saw of him on Orbit and Luminosity Gaming / Winterfox, that's just kind of the way that I feel about him. And his rating overall is 1.08, and I mean, that doesn't really speak much, because there are people like Xantez, who play on like tier 3 teams, and they have like a rating of 1.30 or whatever. But I think he can possibly, if he finds like some super level of form, be a really good player on NiP. I think he has the confidence, and, I think even players like Michaelele, who we never possibly thought would be a star player, kind of rose to the occasion and showed their potential. So I'm hoping that Pyth can reach this. And I think it's possible, but I'm not quite too sure if it's within him, but I hope it is. Now, my second point about Pyth is, if they don't make him the AWPer, if they don't make him kind of like the second man in, like he was on Team Orbit, then maybe he should become the entry fragger and replace Freiberg, and maybe give Freiberg a bit of a break and make him the third or second man into sights. Now, if they did that, him and Freiberg kind of like as a combo on an entry, I could see as quite strong. It's quite effective. I'm not saying Freiberg is one of the best entry fraggers in the world anymore. I'm not saying that at all. But Freiberg is an entry fragger. He has that ability in terms of that's his role. That's what he's been practicing this whole entire time. If him and Pyth can kind of share this duty and be like a combo or duo that does that kind of thing, kind of like the old Envious had when they had Shocks at Kiyoshima, like him and Kiyoshima used to kind of share that duty. Maybe Freiberg and Pyth can kind of switch between that depending on each map. Maybe they're better at certain positions at entry fragging. And, maybe that'll allow him to show his potential. But I still think, we have to see how well he does against teams such as Fnatic, such as Envious, and as such as the Danish TQM team. He needs to face that top-level competition, show us what he's worth, what his role actually is in a more structured game. Because currently I've only seen him play against eFrag, and NiP's really results there weren't that great. They won like 2-1 in like an overtime kind of match. So yeah, it doesn't look too good for the NiP roster so far in terms of what he's doing, but I understand he is a new player. They haven't probably been practicing or playing the game too much, so yeah. Now, when Pyth was on Orbit, that's the thing about Pyth. He was really dynamic. He used to switch roles. Sometimes he would be like the guy who would be the first person on the pistol round. Sometimes he would be, on at least the buy rounds, he used to be entry. Sometimes he used to be the second man in. Sometimes he was even the lurker. So yeah, I think he's a really kind of dynamic player, and he needs to find his role. He needs to find what he's best at and bring that to NiP. And possibly that might allow him to become his very best, or even allow him to maybe leave NiP in the end and just end up on a different kind of team and learn a lot from that experience. Now, yeah, he did on Team Orbit play mainly the mid-round kind of player. He was the second or third man in onto a site in terms of T-side, and in terms of defense, he used to be kind of passive. So either he'll continue this role on NiP, like I said, or he'll change to an entry fragger and give Freiberg a rest. And yeah, my basic summarizing points about Pyth is that we really shouldn't rule him out just yet. My personal opinion is that Pyth really hasn't shown his true potential yet, nor has he ever been on a tier 1 team before, so I think it'll take time for him to adjust. We really need to see his role, his playstyle on NiP, and how effective he is in the context of the rest of the scene against the best of the best, because that's where you really see how good of a player he is. Now, he's really that type of guy where, like I said, you want to wait and see before you judge him. Players like Michaelele were part of, tier 2 teams, and they were unknown talents, and now Michaelele is considered, at least one of the best talents in Sweden. NiP tried to reoffer it to him, but he apparently declined 3 times or something. So yeah, I think maybe bringing in Pyth can build him at least as a player, can help build the tier 2 Swedish scene if he doesn't particularly work out. So it's only beneficial to him. In terms of NiP, this needs to be the year for NiP to really bring themselves back, because right now I just see them slipping further and further. They need to use Threat, their new coach, effectively in terms of not only in improving themselves, but in terms of strategies, learning kind of new styles, and basically applying that to their game. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to me if you want more content like this. I have a Patreon in the description that you can use to help support my videos further, and I'll catch you guys later.